Hello, beautiful human being. So great that we are connected here in this moment. Your entire life brought you to the screen before you. My entire life brought me to recording this video. Here we are together. Let's celebrate that and take a deep breath. Will you take a deep breath with me? And a clearing breath out. I would love to do two more. Let's do two more. Full deep breath in. And a clearing breath out. One more nice big deep breath in, fill up. Exhale, let it go. Good. So today I wore my Evolution in Progress t-shirt to talk about part 2 of my evolution. Really, I started last video by putting a pin in the place where I had gone on my weight loss journey. I explained about the environment in which I grew up and the way that I gained lots of weight and the way that I was choosing that way of life to the moment where I lost weight, started my weight loss journey. So that, like I like to share, was the first crack in my eggshell of evolution and transformation. And I often refer to that as it was a very physical transformation. And the very interesting thing is that if I put a pin in there and then fast forward, that was around 2011 to 2015, a very different transformation occurred for me that is more difficult to see. It was a transformation on the inside. So what losing weight allowed me to do was to recognize how much I love to move my body and start to attract community around exercise and fitness. So soon I started to teach group fitness classes. I loved teaching spin classes, boot camp classes, and I was connecting with community around this. And I eventually got very much into running, and running community was a big step in my journey. I often refer to running as my first meditative practice or my first yoga because that was time with myself. So a couple of things that were happening in this phase of my life. I was still an engineer, I was a student, and I transferred from the little school to the big school, the big, really pride surrounded, prestigious is the word I'm looking for, engineering school, which is closer to where I live at home. And I started living on campus. For the first little while I was living at home and commuting, and then eventually I started living on campus, and that was really good. So it was a big deal to come back home with the weight loss and all these new habits of lifestyle and diet, and I was really committed to making them stick. In fact, I was even fearful to go back to overweight Jeff. And that fearfulness was a very interesting evolution, because what started to happen, and I didn't notice it till I got more into the yoga and meditation, is that I developed a dysfunctional relationship, another dysfunctional relationship with food and with fitness in my physicality. So that comes later in the story. For now, though, I was enjoying life, and I was very much excited to be teaching group fitness classes and connecting with the community thereof. Because I discovered something that I loved and was so passionate about, it highlighted that I was very unpassionate and very unenthused about my work and career path as an engineer. So a deeper crack in the eggshell started to form, because I started for the first time deeply considering my path and why I was choosing it. And I was also reconciling the fact that I was very unhappy in this path, and it was very difficult. In a sense, my motivation, the intrinsic motivation for exercising in health and wellness, was there. The intrinsic motivation to go to school and to be a professional engineer or an academic engineer, which is more aligned with me, was not there. So it was this, how do I reconcile this? And I remember walking up the hill one day, and I was going to go teach a spin class at the gym, and I was excited about it. I loved it. That's what my life revolved around back then was teaching group fitness classes and exercise boot camp classes, etc. And I was walking up the hill and I had the thought pop into my head, and I paid attention to this thought. I never liked doing any of this anyway, and it was relative to my course and my engineering and the path I had already carved out, which was very difficult and very academically intensive. And I realized I never liked any of this anyway. What am I doing it for? And it's very interesting because I remember the moment that thought entered my field, and we have so many thoughts. Which ones do we give attention to? Which ones do we allow to pass by? That one I paid attention to, and then I swept it away. That was a thought from the depths of my soul. So we have the conditioning thoughts, the mental chatter of the brain, and then if we start to get more aligned with ourselves, we get this beautiful essence, essential thoughts, intuitive thoughts that wake us up and support our transformation. So around this time, another big shift occurred in my life, and now I'm nearing the end of my undergraduate program. So I've done great in school, I've lost weight, been a huge transformational period for me. I'm looking at the precipice, the horizon of, wow, I'm in a career path I really don't like. Here are some things that I have figured out that I really like. What am I going to do about getting a job, etc., or an internship? And around this time, my mother got very ill. My mother was sick on and off for most of my childhood. In fact, from the time I was around 10 until my early 20s, 2021, oftentimes there was a lot of illness, and my mother, there was times where she would go to the hospital with cancer when I was younger, 12 years old, I remember. And there was one night where they told us that she wasn't going to make it through the night. And my mother persevered, and she stayed alive really for us and for me. I believe that. And so as a caretaker and her deep love for me kept her going. However, I saw my mother, I saw a human being that was once so alive, and the stories that she shared from her younger age, I saw my mother essentially lose the will to live. So she hung around to be there to support me, and I also saw her lose the will to live, to get healthy, to be healthy because her cancer went into remission, to embrace life. And I also saw my mother with a very strong victimhood mindset. And what I mean by that is the world was out to get her. Everything was against her. And so she couldn't win. When we have that mindset, and I recognize this, there's a piece of it in almost everyone. When I have the mindset that the world affects me, I set myself up for that story that I can't win, or that I don't have influence over my life, or even I don't have influence over my way of discovering and creating meaning in my life, which is the ultimate power that we have. So two things I witnessed and I was very close with is my mother losing the will to live, to really live, to be alive, not just a vegetable, but to live. And eventually she passed away, and she succumbed to what the doctors say were the ramifications of years of chemotherapy and radiation. And it went it went downhill over the course of 5 or 6 months. And this process greatly influenced my perception of the Western medical system, and also reinforced me taking responsibility for my health and wellness. So the opposite of being a victim is to take responsibility and to own. So my mother was unfortunately chronically, in my opinion, over-prescribed pain medicine for decades, literally over a decade. And in the course of these 6 months leading up to her passing away, there was one instance where she fell down and hurt herself and had to go to an emergency room. They gave her loads of pain medicine, and she was always prescribed pain medicine because of her cancer. And so she had a running tap, I would like to say, of pain medicine, very strong pharmaceutical pain medicine. And so anyway, in the course of the 6 months, she fell, went to the emergency room, was overprescribed medicine, came back home, went into a coma because of like basically overdosed on pain medicine, needed to go back to the emergency room, and that happened 5 times, around 5 times. And I was in school, I was finishing my last semester, and I was getting very impatient with this process. And as much as I love my mother, I never imagined her passing away because she had been through so much. And finally, I was getting so frustrated with this hamster wheel experience that they were overprescribing, she was overdosing, and going back to the emergency room. I really did see my mother lose the will to live. And it came to a point where we knew, and we had the conversation with the doctors, myself, my dad, and the doctors, that she was either going to have to be kept alive or taken to a hospice in order to let herself pass away, because she had lost this will to live. And it was the hardest decision I'll ever make in my life, because at the time, I was the one with the authority to make that decision. And it was made better because I knew my mother, and I knew what she would have wanted when she was of sound mind. And so I made the decision to move her to the hospice because I know that she didn't want to live this way. And she passed away. That was the next big crack in my egg, because now that my mother has passed away, and I haven't shared this with you, that my grandfather, her father, also, he committed suicide when she was at a young age. He was also an engineer, and he went to the same school I attended. So there was a lot of conditioning and me feeling like I was supposed to go and follow this path in the footsteps of my grandfather. And my mother was a big influence in that. And her passing away was the next big knock on my bell to reevaluating, what am I choosing in my life? Is it aligned with me? When our parents pass away, when somebody significant passes away, especially somebody that's so connected to our upbringing, who we are, a parent, it is a very transformational time, especially if we choose it to be transformational. And for a time, I was lost. So I will leave it here with suspense and let you know how I reconciled and how I grieved and how I healed from that experience and the meaning I have created in the next video. Thank you for watching. This is part 2. I'm enjoying sharing my story with you, my evolution. In the comments, let me know. I want to make this teachable. I want to make this inspiring. So I'm sharing my personal story with you in the moments that I connect with in my journey. And I recognize that we are all on a journey, and I am here to support you and yours, really. So if you have any questions about the decisions I made, or the place I was in, or what I experienced in my weight loss journey, in my transformation, in my desire, in having this big critical decision of, this is what I've been doing and I don't like it, and this is what I really love to do, how do I do that more in my life? Which is more into the next video. If you have any questions at all, let me know. Thank you for watching. See you next time.